morning, friends. Welcome to Scholar IAS Current Affairs classes. In this class, we will be covering most important current affairs articles that are important for both prelims and mains. These articles are covered from various sources like The Hindu, Indian Express, PIB, Live Mint. Log on to scholar.in or download Scholar Android app for further current affairs, free quiz, free materials, mind maps, notes, videos, and everything related to UPSC civil service examination. Let's start our today's classes. The first article, it is about MSME sector. So recently there has been decline in the number of establishment and workers registered with the EPFO, that is Employers Provident Fund Organization. Okay. So what does this means? Okay, if there is a decline in number of establishment and workers registered in EPFO, what does it means? It means these numbers are performance indicators of, that is, micro, small and medium enterprises, that is MSME sector in India. This MSME sector is very vital for employment generation in India and also for economic recovery to sustain. Okay, currently India is having and going through an economic recovery phase after the pandemic induced lockdown. To sustain the economic recovery and to generate the employment, MSME sector is very important. Okay, see, the government has provided fiscal boost under Atmanirbhar schemes to provide employment in MSME sector as a part of Atmanirbhar Rozgar Yojana. Under Atmanirbhar Rozgar Yojana, what happens is the government will bear the entire provident fund contribution for the 2 years for all the new employees hired. Okay, what happens is in employees, part of the salary is saved in the EPFO, and part in the equal amount of contribution is also done by the employer. Okay, so what happens is now the government will bear the entire cost of provident fund contribution for the 2 years for all the new employee hired. This is because to increase the employment opportunity in the MSME sector. Okay. The MSME sector has also been provided a collateral free loans. Okay, collateral free loan means loans without any security. Okay, they are provided collateral free loans at very less interest rate under Atmanirbhar Bharat schemes. But despite the scheme, it has been not successful because there has been not much. Many MSMEs haven't took these loans, or many MSMEs haven't took the full opportunity of these schemes. It points out that there are some deep concerns with regard to MSME sectors. Now let's understand why these incentives given by the government failed. Because the MSME are very heterogeneity in nature, means they are very complex and very vividity. There is vividity in the nature of these MSME sectors because it compromises both manufacturing and service sector, and the service sector comprises the larger part. Okay, it also includes enterprises ranging from just a single person to more than 5 workers. Okay, and almost 94% of these, that is MSME sectors, are very tiny, means they are very small with less than just 4 workers working in their enterprises. Okay, and these MSME sectors are spread across India, and they are in both like rural areas, urban areas, and also in semi-urban areas. So it is in almost all the sector like like a food sector or transportation sector, service sector, manufacturing sector, everywhere. So this because of this, MSME is a very heterogeneity in nature, and because of its heterogeneity, the schemes such as like collateral free loans and Atmanirbhar Rozgar Yojana are not working out there. Okay, and among all the MSMEs, only about 31% of MSMEs are registered under the various acts such as like GST Act, and they also face regulatory issues such as complex GST tax system that is prevailing in India. Okay, so now let's understand what are the problems faced by this MSME sector. Basically, Indian MSME sector are very resilient But despite their resilience, they got impacted because of demonetization and also implementation of GST. But there are also other problems of MSME sector. One is lack of demand because of economic slowdown. The economy has been slowing down even before the pandemic, and after pandemic it further aggravated. And the MSME sectors have unpaid dues largely pending from the government sector. Okay, the government outsources lots of services to these MSME sectors or procures lots of goods from MSME sectors. For example, if for developing of infrastructure, lots of cement and lots of things that are procured from this MSME sector by the government, and they aren't paid their dues. Okay, and this dues has been increasing. This due has been increasing during pandemic because the finances of the state government also strained. Because of the pandemic, the finances of the state government are affected, and because of this, there has been increase in unpaid dues to the MSME sector, further affecting the MSME sectors. And the state intervention, that is government intervention, is biased towards the large corporations, that is big companies, because even before the pre-pandemic, these big companies has received a tax benefits worth 1.5 trillion rupees. Okay, and there was no such stimulus were given to MSME sectors. Okay, and after this pandemic, most state government have relaxed the labor regulations for large companies. And because of these relaxed labor regulations, the cost of labor has reduced. And this is the one advantage of MSMEs when compared to large corporate companies. And this has also been decreasing now. And now, because of this, the MSME has to compete with the corporate sector, because the corporate sector has the easy access to capital, easy access to cheap capital, and now they are also getting unregulated labor, and they are also having low tax burden than before. So they are not, the MSMEs and corporates aren't in the level playing field now. Okay. Let's move on to the what needs to be done to boost the MSME sector. Despite MSME, the importance of the MSME sector, as I said earlier, they have been denied the level playing field. Okay, and reviving this sector, requires lots of political economic approach that prioritize the MSME sectors. Okay, and not just the corporate sector or any other in that sense. And India needs to ease the regulatory burden for small units and aid their survival through fiscal support. Okay, if there is heavy regulatory burden, big companies can manage it, but small companies or MSMEs, it becomes a big burden, and it increases the cost of doing business of this MSME sector, and this affects the survival itself. Okay, and to boost them, the government needs to give the fiscal support, not just giving them the loans at low interest rate, or they should give some subsidies or the direct cash benefit transfer to this MSME sector. See, and the MSME sector is the largest employer in India outside agriculture and construction. So a broad-based economic recovery from both supply and demand side for the MSME sector is the need of the hour. Let's move on to our next article. It's about economic liberalism. This article is from the Hindu newspaper. Recently, you know that India has exited from the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. This we have covered in our previous class also. Okay, and this is justified by our External Affairs Ministry, that he has disapproved the free trade and globalization in India. He said that India has allowed subsidized products and unfair product advantage from abroad under the open and globalized economy. What basically he said is, because of globalized economy and open economy, India has allowed lots of subsidized products and unfair production advantages from various countries into India. Okay. He also said that India is an attractive economy. So, being an attractive economy, it allowed the framework to be set by others. Frameworks like WTO and all. Okay. So basically, he was disapproving the free trade and globalization. and he justified by disapproving this, that justified the exit of India's exit from RCEP. Now let's understand what are the disadvantages of India exiting from the RCEP. Exiting from RCEP places India at the margin of regional and global economy. Okay, regional in the sense which refers to East Asian economy. Okay, we are at the margins. We are out of this economy. A trade multilateralism that such as WTO, that is World Trade Organization, has remained sluggish. The WTO has almost dead because of various issues. So in that case, FTAs, that is free trade agreements, are gateways for the international trade. And by not being any part of any major FTA, India cannot be part of global value added chains. Okay, and India's competitors, such as East Asian nations, are in superior position to be the part of global value chains and attract foreign direct investment mainly because of the FTAs, that is free trade agreements such as RCEP. Okay. Now, the author also argues that India is a closed economy. Although India is a much more economy than before, than our liberalization of 1991 policies, we are much more economy, no doubt in that. But globally, India is still a relatively closed economy compared to other major economies such as like G20 economies. Okay, so let's understand why India is still closed economy compared to other economies. India's most favored nation import tariffs are 18.3 percentage. If India gives most favored nation, tag to some other country, the import tariff from those countries are about high as about 13.8%. This is the highest of any major economy in the world. Okay, and the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development report. Okay, this is a report by United Nations. This is a report by United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. It on in That is import restrictiveness index. Okay, restrictiveness index. It places India as a very restrictive category. Okay, and India has initiated the highest number of anti-dumping measures to protect the domestic industry. So these three tells that India is a like closed economy compared to other major economies in the world. Let's move on. So India also has a weak manufacturing sector. Okay, India was unable to benefit from the FTA. It's not because of the FTAs are bad. It's because India has the weak manufacturing sector. On the other hand, the economic survey of 2020 tells that India has benefited from the overall FTAs signed so far. Overall, we have signed FTAs with many other countries, and overall, India has benefited from the FTAs. And which weak manufacturing sector and deindustrialization due to lack of competitiveness and absence of structural reforms are the main issues. Okay, because of trade deficit with many Southeast Asian countries. Okay, overall India has benefited from the economic globalization as economic grew faster pace post 1991. Before 1991, India was growing at just some 3 to 4%. It was less than, mostly it was less than 5%. But after 1991 LPG reform, that is liberalization, privatization, globalization reforms, India has clocked the average growth of about 8%. Okay, and because of this growth, India has reduced its urban and rural poverty from about 40% in 2004 to 5 and almost halved in, that is halved in 2011 and 12 to 20%. Now it is about 16% currently, 16 to 17% according to various figures. And this was the reduction in poverty was high because due to high economic growth of average 8%, and this high economic growth was because of international trade was a major engine for our progress. Yeah. Let's move on. What is the conclusion of this article? It tells that if the government has desired to make India a global destination for foreign investment, this might be difficult because we are not signing any FTAs and we are having a closed approach or relatively closed economy. Protectionist policies of the government will deter the foreign investors from investing in India. If we want more FDAs to come in India, foreign direct investments to come in India, then we have to open up our economy further. Okay. This is another article about center and state finances. This article is from Live Mint. This article is important for both GS paper 2 and GS paper 3 also. See, recently India's economic movement has slowed down. Okay, over the past 2 years, and because of this again pandemic, it has went in the negative area. Because of this, the public resources, that's it, tax resources, have reduced with in tandem to the economic slowdown. Because of the reduced tax revenue, there has been intensifying of conflict for the scarce public funds between central government and state government. The central government and state government have been at a conflict on the range of issues. Okay, they are like, first one is increase in the use of cesses by the center. We will discuss about this in the next slide. And the compensation of the for the shortfall of the GST revenues. Post pandemic, the government has not compensated the GST revenues adequately with the state government. This is the one of the issue. And the central government has made demand from the 15th Finance Commission for the funds for the central subject for defense and internal security purpose. So now currently the 15th Finance Commission has submitted its recommendations to the central government. It has not yet been made public. But before this recommendation, the central government has demanded additional funds for the central government for its purposes, because the central government hands subjects like defense and internal security. Okay. Now let's understand the division of funds between central government and state government. Since independence, central government always had the highest share in the public funds, that is divisible pool of taxes. And the constitutional division of subjects puts more welfare obligation on the state government. According to the constitution, various welfare subjects such as agriculture, education, health, and all these burdens falls on the state government, but the central government gets the highest share. Since 2000s, that is, successive finance commissions have tried to allot more funds to the state government to correct this imbalance. From 29.25% by 11th Finance Commission to 30.5% by 13th Finance Commission, 32% by for 12th Finance Commission, 32% by 13th Finance Commission, and 42% by 14th Finance Commission. This was the recommended by this Finance Commission for the distribution of revenue between central government and state government. That is 42% of the entire divisible tax pool to the state government, and remaining 58% to the central government. But still, central government get the highest share. Okay, and the net proceedings, according to Article 279 of the Indian Constitution, the net proceedings is defined as gross tax revenue, that is the total amount of tax collected by the central government, less surcharges and cess. The surcharges and cess are not divided between the central and government. Surcharges and cesses are exclusively kept by the central government. And the cost of collection, like salaries paid to these income tax officials and all, after deducting this both, whatever remaining money is there, that is divided between central and the state government, with 42% for all the state governments and 58% for the central government. This is according to the 14th Financial Commission. Now let's see what happens in the 15th Financial Commission. The recommendations are not yet made public. During coalition era, that is in coalition in the central government, many regional parties had say over the central government, and ensured that there was a broad-based political support for the shift. After, as we saw from the 11th Finance Commission, there has been shift from sharing more tax revenue to the state government. This was possible because during coalition era, many state government had the say over the central government. Okay, as a result, the state governments get more revenue, more taxable revenue, and the state government started spending on several critical issues such as capital expenditure. And this, and in the, with regard to capital expenditure, states are leading the role, because about two-third, that is two-third of entire government's capital expenditure comes from the state. Capital expenditures like creating infrastructures, building roads, all these are capital expenditures. And this is the highest decentralization of the capital spending globally. This is said by the RBI. Okay, let's move on to further. Now, further, now since in the central government again there is a by there is a majority rule by a single party, or there is no coalition government, there is the dominance of center is again returning. Okay, due to the shrinking share in total revenue pool. Okay, the overall tax revenue has been shrinking, and because of this, center is rising additional revenues through cesses and surcharges. Since cesses and surcharges are not divided with the states, all this revenue goes back to central government. This has overall stagnated the divisible pool of revenue. Because of central and the cesses and surcharges, there has been stagnation in the overall divisible pool of the revenue, which is affecting the state governments. I hope you understand this. And the mandated, there are reports that the mandated devolution figure may have been lowered slightly by the 15th Finance Commission. Though it might have lowered slightly, it might not affect, but it breaks the signal. Okay, it breaks the signal from the past trend of rising allocation from the state governments. Let's move on. Now, the state government finance has been crippling. Let's understand why. The pandemic-induced lockdown has crippled this crippling effect on already weakened state government finances. Because of economic slowdown from the past 2 years, there are already state governments were weakened, and because of various reasons, as we discussed in the previous slide, and this pandemic has further crippled the state government finance. Let's understand why. The central government delayed the GST compensation cess to the central government by the state to the state government by lowering the amount of visible available for the divisible pool cesses and charges. Again, as I said earlier, the divisible pool has been reduced because of the cesses and surcharges. And and it's not because just because of this central government, it's also because of the state government. Many state government has come with populist programs such as like a farm loan waiver, okay, by the number of states like Maharashtra and various other states. And this was done without doing much to raise the farm incomes. Even though so much amount was spent in farm loan waiver, it didn't increase the farm incomes as well. And there was also a low, poor performance by the power debt restructuring scheme Uday, that is Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana. Okay, because of this, again, the state government debt has increased. During lockdown, there was a ban on liquor and sharp fall in mobility. Because of the sharp fall in mobility, it has reduced the fuel station. Okay, and because of this, there was a slump down in the taxes from the fuels, and there was also slump down in the property market. Okay, property in the real estate market, and state governments are heavily dependent on, one is liquor, second is tax on the petrol and diesel, and one is from the stamp charges from the real estate market. And because of this lockdown, the state government's finance further crippled. Let's understand there is another slide about this. There was also sharp contradiction in revenues that has led to state to cut back their expenses. Because of this, sharp reduction in revenue, state has to cut back most of their revenues wherever possible. But the biggest hit was the state-funded capex, that is capital expenditures. Okay, and this will have a cascading effect over the various economic progress made till now. And there has been cutting on capex even before the pandemic came. And the market borrowing, that is the loans debts taken by the government, has also gone up, and the cost of borrowing, that the interest on this loan, has also increased. Although because of the RBI's, that is Reserve Bank of India's intervention through open market operations, the interest on state development loans have been reduced, but this facility might not available from the next year. So from the next year, the cost of borrowing will further increase for the state government. Okay. the ratio of state level debt to gross domestic product of the particular state has steadily increased from the 22.6% to 26.3% from 2013 to 19. Currently, West Bengal, Punjab, and most of the northeastern states have the highest debt to state GDP ratio in India. So, where lies the way forward? See, the center and state relation would become more fractions due to financial strains between them, and the fault lines between them would become more complex. So, the center needs to be generous with the states to help them to meet their revenue needs and respond to still raging pandemic. Because of the pandemic, states are have to spend lots of money on the healthcare sector and various other sectors. So this calls for the new institutional structure beyond finance commission for better negotiation and trust building between the center and state. Probably similar to there can be similar to GST Council. Okay, friends. Thank you, friends. Thank you for watching today's current affairs classes. Stay tuned to Scholars YouTube channel for regular updates. And one more thing, if you can dream it, then definitely you can do it. Okay, this is the quote for the today. Quote for the today. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.